Hello, this is Jeff Byers. I'm the instructor for ANI 150, and this is Module 3. And we just got finished creating our dagger. Now we're going to move on to our battle axe. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the front view like we always do. And we're going to go ahead, and you can see that I have my outliner on. I've got that uploaded already, so when I'm working I like to have that over to the left hand side. You can dock it anywhere you'd like. And you can dock it over here if you'd like. Anyway, I got my outliner open. I can always minimize that if I need more space. And let's go ahead and get this to channel editor or channel box and layer editor. And I'm going to go into my we've come in with a new scene, so file new scene. If you have your dagger, you want to put these in different scenes. And then I'll show you how to merge all the stuff together. All the pieces that we're going to create. Alright, so let's go to the front view and let's go to view and load up the image. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go into import image. Okay, and we have the battle axe. We're looking for battle axe model reference JPEG. Okay, we're going to open that up. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this all set up. So we're going to leave it the way it is, meaning don't need to scale it or scale it down. We're going to select it and make sure you click on layer, add a layer, and the object together. And we're going to go ahead and rename that. Call this axe reference, REF, and save it. And then we can put it in as a reference. So when we click off, we can do that now. Before we do that, let's go ahead and move it back so it doesn't get in the way of our modeling. And then go ahead and select reference on that one so we don't select it accidentally. A lot of you asked me, what if this gets in the way? So it depends on which direction you're working, right? So if I were to take and create a cube, and I can see that cube, right? But what happens if I'm in the wrong axes and I move this like that, and I go in here to the front view and I can't see my object? Well, it's because your image plane is covering, it's between your camera and your object, so you'll have to move that back. You can see from this point of view right here, if I move that back, you can see it pops open the minute it goes past it. So if you see this issue happening to you, just move. Make sure you're facing the Z, which is this way. You're facing the Z, right? And your object's pushed back away from that. If you're in the wrong direction, like this is negative Z, the Z is going this way, then you're going to have problems. So make sure you're facing the right way and make sure you push it back. But if that happens to you, just move your image plane back away or forward, whatever way works best for you if that happens to you. Okay? Alright, so let's get that out of the way. Alright, so the next thing is, I'm going to go ahead and reference that so I don't select it, is, yes, I start with a cube. And with this particular piece, we have what looks like a rounded piece that goes onto more of a semi-round, kind of a cubic shaped pole, right? Which is kind of really lazy as far as I'm concerned, as far as somebody creating this piece. Usually they're round, but we'll go ahead and work with this pole. So that should make modeling pretty easy for you. But we do need to go in from making it round, like at the top, making it round from the top and go and actually fit and go down the center. Now, how do we do that without causing a lot of pain? You know, we want everything to fit right. So this kind of offers some, we have to think about the strategy before we start modeling. Again, we have to think about the pieces. Now, the top piece looks like one solid piece, which is going to make this a lot harder to create. Okay? So even though it's just on basically a stick, a pole that looks like a stick, maybe rounded a little bit here on the edges, But this is basically just a pole, right? You know, maybe a 2x2, maybe a little bit bigger. So it's just one of those things that the hardest piece that was fabricated was probably this, and it was probably cast, and then. But anyway, with the idea that this is one solid piece, it's going to make our life a little bit tougher, okay? And it doesn't change how I do things. With the round part, it does. Like I would normally take this and just extrude it, but it doesn't really work for this. Okay, so we got to have different strategies set up for this, and because this is just one solid piece, I've got to think ahead of time and use my experience to think about how I'm going to start this. You know, it'd be easy to go ahead and start the pole, you know, and how do you want to do that? That's the, you know, we could just go with a cube and extrude all the way down and we're done, right? Well, not necessarily true. Kind of look at some other pictures and see if what that really looks like here. And I've got more images here. So this is one that, so it is basically just a basic perfect cube, right? All the way up. Okay. That's wonderful. But the problem is at the top, what do we do? And then the straps are going to be tough. Okay. So those are things we have to think about and how we're going to deal with that. So it's not the pole, it's not that part. The part is, this is perfectly round. I can tell from right here. So we got to take a square peg and put it in a round hole. That's harder than you think. Okay. Why can't we just finesse it to work? Sure we can. Sure, absolutely we can. And you're not going to see much of the top. That's going to be really, I mean, we got a picture of the top here. And you can see that it has been machined so it fits within that area here. Now that makes it a lot tougher, and it does stick out a little bit more. So if we're going to be super accurate, this is going to be a little more difficult to do. Okay, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. Of course it's not impossible. We can do it. So here's the idea. This is what we're going to do. Plan of attack is we got 3 pieces. Okay, and you're asking yourself, what pieces are you talking about? Well, we have the top piece. Okay, that's this piece right here, and I'm going to do one side and then mirror it over. But I'm going to, you know, take it as far as I can, and then cut it in half and then mirror it over. And then the pole is the second separate piece that we need to refine at the top, and then we have to place these coils in, which is a lot harder than you think. You know, because we're crossing over here, you know, and we want to get it as accurate as we can. So this does take time. So be prepared for the axe head. This part isn't going to be so bad, but the axe head, and then this part. So I'm going to go ahead and start the axe head, and because I think that's the hardest part, and then we'll go down into the pole and work that out. So the axe head, where do we start? Well, we start with a cylinder, believe it or not. Actually, it's not going to be a cylinder, it's going to be a pipe, and we don't see it up here. Okay, so the pipe is not showing up here, so let's go to create NURBS primitives, and we've got more primitives in here. Okay, so you know, we show the sphere, we show the cube, we show the cylinder, cone, torus, plane, and disc. I think we do up here. Let's take a look. No, we don't show the disc. But what's the difference between a cylinder and a disc? Anyway, so let's go in here and primitives. So let's go. I guess the disc is flat, right? This is the pipe. Okay, so the pipe and the helix and the gear are really cool. Soccer ball I don't have much use for, but these guys are incredibly good, and use them all the time. So pipe. Let's go in here. And let's take a look at the pipe. How do we manage the pipe? So let's go ahead and hit the F key and rotate around. F key is in Frank, and move this around. Okay. And you can see under polypipe, and a lot of you guys have forgotten about this because we've been extruding a lot. But when you have a primitive, you can change it on the fly right here, right in front of you. And I can go to radius, I can highlight it, and my middle mouse button, I'm holding it down, See those two arrows there? I can hold that down and interactively move it and scale it any way I want, which is extremely cool. And then we've got the height, highlight that, and then your middle mouse button. You can just kind of experiment a little bit. It's kind of fun. So we're going to bring that up a little bit like that. And then thickness, okay? And this is how thick we can make it, and it's going to be a piece of steel. So basically, okay, we got something that looks like that, and that's perfect to start off right here because it's a perfect circle. Now, it may not be perfect circles. Let's take a look. It looks round to me, but it could be oblong. Let's take a look at this a little bit closer because we want to try to do the best we can. There we go. Okay, so it's not a perfect circle, so we're going to have to squish it in a little bit, but still, we can still use it. It works really well. Okay, so a couple things we're going to run into is we're going to have some cleanup, okay, and we're going to have to divide it a little bit more. That's not a problem. So what are we going to start with? We're going to start with 20, right? 10 across, 10 across, okay? That's perfect. So with low poly, with the cylinders, okay, they tend to show, like, the bigger the object is, the more subdivisions you're going to need in gaming, you know, to keep it looking smooth. So something small can go, you know, if I have a cord, and you know the diameter of a cord is like maybe, you know, 1/4 of an inch, so I can get away with a lot less subdivisions because it's going to be smaller and farther away from the camera. But when you look at this, it's a little bit larger. So we're going to keep it around 20. We could probably get away with 18, but let's do 20. Be nice and smooth. And so let's do that. Close that. Again, you know, having these different angles, which is, they're hard to find, let me tell you. And I got lucky with this one website. It's pretty cool. And we're going to go in here and just kind of shape this a little bit, kind of what we're talking about, like that. There we go. So you got that shape. And so now we're going to go in there and let's take a look and see what we have as far as scale goes. Go ahead and turn on X-ray. So go to view, or excuse me, shading and the X-ray. And we're going to scale that down. Okay, the entire thing down like that. And let's go ahead and fit it on there like this. Alright, so you see we got perspective on there, which is fine. I'm just going to go with the perspective to the top, and we can finesse this later. Let's take a look at that. Now let's take a look at thickness now. Okay, from a distance. How are we doing on thickness with that? Close that off, and let's take a look with that. Does that look about right? Let's take a look at this. And yeah. Okay. So we could probably go a little bit thicker, but I don't want to make it look chunky or toy-like, right? So I'm very, very careful, and I'm thinking ahead that sometimes you have to, and we can make that a little bit thicker later, but I think the way it looks now, and we can go back to it, you know, and go to Polypipe, and the thickness, we could go 0.15 on thickness. There we go. And let's try that. I think that looks pretty good. That's good. Right. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we got the basics for this. Let's get rid of that cube. And so we got a good start already. I'm going to move these vertices down, even though we have kind of a perspective issue right here. I'm going to bring this down right about there. And so this is where the blade starts. Okay, so that's really important that I bring it down to, you see that little curvature here? I've got to bring it down below that. Okay, that's just how I feel when I'm modeling. Everybody does things differently. Notice I have this kind of straight in the center, and so I can easily cut this. You can see I can easily cut this side off, and that's one thing. If with 20 I can do that. If I go higher or go lower, I might have this so it's moved over to the side. Another thing we got to think about is, are we centered? I never really even looked at that, and now I'm seeing it's not centered properly. So I've got to go back, and I should have done that first, but I didn't, and shame on me, right? And let's go in here and move that over to the center. Okay, you can see that I'm trying to get that rivet to me is the center, but I don't think that's correct. But so I'm gonna have to use the stick maybe, and I may have not centered this perfectly in Photoshop either. I tried really hard to center it. Sometimes there's kind of perspective on the image, so finesse it to where you think it looks best for you. And I'm going to center it to the headpiece here if I can. Okay, that means I'm going to have to center this. There we go. Let's go ahead and click on Grid Snap and center this to see if this works. Okay. I might still be a little bit off with this. Nope, I need to get that off. Turn Grid Snap off so I can move that. Yeah, you're going to have to go between, and there is perspective on this. I can see it. But I think that's okay. We'll deal with this. There we go. So let's go ahead, and I don't want to spend too much time on that. And then let's go in here. And let's make some cuts here. We've got a little bit of a delay, or not delay, but we're going to move down just a little bit. Does it come right out of it? Let's take a look one more time. That's not the right one. There we go. Right, looks like it comes right from the top, and the bottom goes right into that. Okay, so what we're going to do with that is we're going to come right off from the top. So I'm going to move these down. That means that I need to move these down. Okay, it's going to come off right from the top, and then we're going to move up from the bottom. Okie dokie. So we're good there. Alright, so selection mode, I'm going to hold down the shift key and my right mouse button and go to insert edge loop. I love doing that, as you know. I don't like going over here trying to find it on the toolkit. I don't even use that thing. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to make a selection or add insert edge loop right here. Okay, not up here right now. And I'm going to go ahead, and if you haven't guessed, I'm going to go to the side here, find the side. Okay, and I got to find the thickness here for this side, so I'm going to find the exact opposite. So it's right here. Okay. If you're not sure where I'm at, well, I'm over here, this area right here, when I'm in my perspective right here. So let me prove it to you. So I'm going to select that that edge, and just to let you know, just to make sure you understand where we're at. Now you can do it from the top view if it's easier for you, and that might be. Okay. So I'm going to do same thing. Make sure you're in object mode, right? Not component mode, and make sure you right click over and go to select, and then hold the shift key. Right mouse button, go to insert edge loop, and here's the center, so we need to add it right here, and we want the thickness that we have here, so I'm going to click right here and right here. Okay, and I just have to look at the distance between these two and between these two, and then I'm going to hit the Q key, click off anywhere. And see, it's not really perfect right here. I've got it a little bit too close, so I'm going to double click on that. Okay, that gives me, you know, I've got good edge loops, so I'm able to do the whole thing. And notice how this camera is kind of really wonky now. Okay, I can't revolve around the object. All you have to do is hit the F key to focus on it, and now it will revolve around the object. That's a little tip for you. Okay, let me show you again. If your camera is really wonky, all you have to do is like click an edge. Hit the F key, it'll focus on that edge, F as in Frank, and then you can zoom out and it rotates around that object or that component. You can do it on vertex too. F key, right? Now it's hooked on it. So a lot of you just remember to use the F key, Frank, F as in Frank. Now I'm going to show you how to slide, okay, an edge. So if I go in here and double click on an edge and I want to move it, well, it does some wonky stuff, doesn't it? Look at that. It doesn't move with the edge. Okay, if you want to move it with the edge along this edge right here, which we do, then we've got to do a couple things. We've got to go ahead and hold the shift key down, right mouse button, and we want to go to slide edge tool. Now this is different, okay? So we're in component mode, so the hold down the shift and the right mouse button gives me a whole different slew of tools, right? Pretty cool, huh? Look at that. All at your fingertips. Okay, again, that's in component mode. That's this mode right up here. Under the main menu, we've got component mode, we've got object mode, right? Okay, so component mode allows us to go shift, right mouse button click, and gives us these other tools. And I'm going to go down to slide edge tool. Okay, what it's telling us is awesome. Maya's telling us drag the middle mouse button. Okay, so I'm going to hold down the middle mouse button and drag it. Look at that. It slides along that edge nice and neatly. Look at that. So slide edge. All right, perfect. Awesome. And then hit the Q key. All right, cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to face mode. We're going to go ahead and select these faces on the side here. Okay. And make sure that we don't select anything else by accident. Okay. And so sometimes I hit the 4 key to see that. Okay, I'm going to go back to 5. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something strange. I'm going to move these out a little bit. Okay. That kind of gives us that little ridge right there. Start. Plus it looks like it's been welded or attached to the object. Okay. Kind of just fits with that. Okay. Just a little. We're not doing a lot. Just a little bit. Right. Like that. Something like that. And so we're going to do extrude, so Control E. Okay. Now, I think I showed you guys how to use the manipulator tool if you want to use it. I don't use it a lot, but it does come in handy. If you hit the arrow key, you can select it and pull it out. If you want to scale, you can hit the scale, like the little cube on either end, and you can scale it out, you know, in all directions. And then again, if you click on the round circle, you can rotate, which doesn't work very well at all. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to move that out before I forget to. And I'm going to go Control Z and hit the W key because I can't stand that. And that works out really good. It gives me just a nice starting point for the blades. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the side view or front view, and you can see we need to move these up. So I'm just going to right click and go to vertex and move that up like that. There you go. Alright, so don't worry if you're not exact. We'll get to that. We're just going to go slow on here, and we're going to go click on the faces here like that. And I'm going to go ahead and do this pretty quickly. It's going to be the same function throughout the whole entire blade. So I'm just gonna fly through it, and then you can pause it if you get lost. If you want to follow along, just pause the video. Alright, so I'm going to go Control E. I've already done an extrude. I'm going to do another one. Hit Control E, and then hit the W key and move it. Okay. Control E, W, and move. Control E, W, and move. Now, you could go in here, and there's a lot of different ways you could go. You could go ahead and extrude it and go all the way to the end. But the idea is that we follow that edge on both sides until we get to a point where we gotta extrude down. Okay, you can only do that so far, and then it becomes impossible. Okay, it becomes very difficult to continue. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead, and there's two ways. Like I said, you can go in here and do Control E and then move it W, move it all the way to the end, right? Okay, and go as far as you can, like that, for the blade, and then you can add edge loops if you want to. Whatever, either way is gonna work just fine. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna go Control back and I'm just going to continue doing that. Now, I can do bigger pieces, like if I go Control Z back, okay, and I want to make sure it's larger, okay, I can do that, okay. And then we can add subdivisions if we need to. Again, this is supposed to be low poly, but it needs to look nice and smooth, though. That's the thing. That's the key. How far can we go with that? What's the distance here before it doesn't look smooth, okay? So that's important, too, as well. So I still have those selected, okay, and I'm going to do Control E, and I'm going to make it a little bit wider. And I think on the curve we'll go a little bit smaller, okay. But let's try that. We can always add more divisions and move things around. Control E, W, Control E, W, Control E, W, Control E, W, and keep doing that all the way across. Oops. Don't hit the Control R. I'm not sure what happened there. So Control E, W, all the way across. Control E, W, Control E, W, and all the way across. There we go. And that looks pretty good. That seems to work pretty good. And you have to stop right here along this edge right here, and you have to have, you know, with that edge here, you have to have an edge right here. Just make sure you have that. E, and then that. So basically, so we can add that piece right here. That's the blade. That goes to nothing, meaning we're not going to have an edge on here. It's going to be sharp, right? Alright, so it's not perfect, right? It's okay. That's fine. And then we're going to go in here, and this is how I just kind of move things around. I'm going to go ahead and select all those and move them up, and select all those. You can see that once I move it up, you can see I don't click on that one again. And I'm just marquee selecting everything. Just makes it a lot faster. I know you're not going to be able to do it this fast, but that's okay. Take your time. Pause the video if you need to. Hit the pause button. And you can see as it gets more extreme, it's starting to spread a little bit more, and it doesn't look as good. See how it's starting to spread more as we get more, you know. We might need to have more vertices in that area there. So we might have to add more. Okay, see how it's really spreading out. We need to add more here, probably another one here, just so it doesn't look like it's spread out so much. Another thing we can start doing is extruding. See, extruding up. Okay. The problem with spreading this out so much, it gets to a point where then you have to move it, and it doesn't look right, right? So there's another way of doing it. Control Z all the way down. Right here, it looks good up until there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing with the bottom one. Okay. So do that, just kind of follow that edge there. Again, I know there's that perspective there. So what do we do? Well, I think what we probably should do is take this whole section here, hold the Shift and the Control key, okay, and that will add to your selection. There we go. And let's move that whole thing up to this part, because that's a perspective distortion right here. So I'm going to go along this edge right here. So let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this again and just move that up just a little bit so it's following that line. We'll do the same thing right here. There we go. So you can follow that little line right there. There we go. And we're almost there. We got one more to do. And then it starts to kind of lengthen right there. And I think it looks okay to that point. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to move these points in a little bit, like this. Like that. And like this. Okay? Alright. So we have some issues right here. Okay? Alright, that's okay. That's fine. So what we can do is we're going to add edge loops across. Okay? So we can keep that blade nice and round. I'm going to go ahead here and go to Insert Edge Loop Tool. I don't know, will it let us do that? There we go. Let's start on this side. And let's go something like that distance right here. Okay, let's start at the bottom here. And the same distance. And then we'll go up about the same distance. And over here, same distance, and then one right in the middle. There we go. So that looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and select those vertices. And let's kind of move these around so they fit. Like that. There we go. Okay. Perfect. Alright. So now let's go in here. So far so good.